Hi, Jamie Edwards again from jamieedwards.com, and today I want to talk about Agile project management and some of the misnomers associated with it. You know, when some companies start doing Agile project management, they bring in someone who's a traditional project manager and apply them to an Agile project. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, if we think about waterfall projects, which were prior to Agile coming onto the scene, the team did all the planning up front for a project. So you may have a product that takes 6 months, a year, 2 years maybe even, to come to market. And because of how much money is being invested in that, there was a lot of process work that was done up front. A lot of teams would actually get together and do a lot of documentation. They might write their entire test plan ahead of writing any code. And they would also use traditional project management tools such as Microsoft Project for building Gantt charts. If you're not familiar with Gantt charts, I'll include a link in the videos to a quick video where you can kind of see what they look like. But the big thing around Gantt charts was you would visually look at your project, usually from left to right, and be able to see a horizontal line that would represent how long a given task on a project might take. The other thing that you would usually use a Gantt chart for was expressing dependencies. So you might have one task related to developing a software product that needs to be completed before another task can start. Now, in projects like building a coliseum or a bank or a large architectural building, a project management approach like this makes sense. Usually you're working with materials that have been used many times before. People know about how long it takes to build certain architectural structures. And even though we know, you've probably seen in the media some high profile cases of large skyscrapers and buildings taking much longer and costing a lot more money than people planned to build, it tends to be somewhat accurate. In software development, however, one of the problems with waterfall development was that by the time a project was released to customers, when you would plan it this way, so much had changed. First of all, the team usually discovered things that they didn't know at the beginning of the project when they did the original design, had changed significantly. Sometimes this was due to showing early prototypes to the customer and finding out that what they built didn't meet their expectations. Oftentimes, and people don't like to talk about this, especially developers, it was simply that developers were using a technology they weren't as familiar with, and by the time they figured out how to really use it well, they realized, this is going to take a little longer than we thought, and they had to update their estimates. So many projects I'd worked on in the past, very early in my career, and also when I got into consulting, some of my clients demanded that we continued to use waterfall, unfortunately. When those projects would move forward, it was really often that right in the middle of the project, we would find that we had to actually update estimates significantly. We would find that a task that was slated to take us, 4 hours or 6 hours was really going to take 3 days. And usually what would happen is we would update using some tool, some time tracking or time planning tool, or Microsoft Project, a Gantt chart. We would update how long that task was going to take, and then everybody would have to communicate that. Sometimes there would even be a status meeting where everybody had to get into a room and talk about, okay, this one task has changed, and now we need to make sure everybody knows that this is going to take longer. On Agile projects, those types of activities really are a complete waste. And there's a lot of companies that try to tell me or tell others, look, we're different. We're a different type of business. We need more predictability. We need to use those same tools on Agile projects. Let me talk to you a little bit why I strongly disagree with that stance, and I think it doesn't make any sense. So if you watched my prior video on, lean software development, I talked about how today's market is so uncertain. There's things changing in the market all the time, and customers' needs change all the time. And this is why we want to introduce Agile development methodologies to account for that. Well, one of the things that we're trading when we choose to do Agile development is we're trading flexibility and adaptability, something we want, for predictability, something that typically a lot of kind of classic traditional management approaches want. So if a company or if a team is going to do agile software development, they have to actually be okay with the fact that predictability is not going to be as high. So one of the things I often work with companies on when they start to adopt agile development is when you begin to do project management, it's less useful to try to map out everything the team's going to do over an extended period of time and then, do all the dependencies, figure out how long all the tasks are going to take, because you're really doing waterfall project management at that point, and then take that sum of work, which may be, a year's worth of work, and try to find a way to sort of shoehorn it into a backlog, a product backlog. So, anybody who's worked on an agile project is familiar with a product backlog. It's basically a big list of all the features that will be built. It can be described using, requirements. It can be described using user stories. There's a lot of different formats for those requirements, but typically what some of the more immature agile companies I work with tend to do is they take everything that they've built in a traditional project plan, which is, again, usually visually it's horizontal and it stretches out with all these bars that represent the tasks, and they simply try to slice it up somewhat and fit it into a backlog so they can sort of say, okay, we get this agile development thing, we're doing agile, we've got a backlog. The bummer with that is the mindset it then creates for management is there's no difference between agile software development and waterfall. The team is using some different tools, they're using different terms. We can go out and now tell our community that we're doing agile software development, but in reality, the team that's delivering it, they don't really see much difference. I've got a list of tasks I have to complete. They have hard estimates. The list of what's going to be built week to week or sprint to sprint doesn't really change much in the backlog. And I believe that type of an approach is really kind of giving the illusion of control to management, and that's actually a very dangerous thing. One of the things I work with many of my clients on is to help them understand, if you want to truly be an agile company, if you want to benefit from the agility that comes with letting go of some of that predictability, then you need to fully embrace the fact that everything that's going to be in that product backlog may be a candidate for not being delivered. So what does that really mean? What that means is, if, let's say, a management committee gets together, or a product owner and a set of customers, and they come up with, 50 features that they want to deliver in the product. They've talked to customers, they're all really great ideas. Well, once we put those in the backlog, if we're going to follow lean principles for delivering value to our customers, we need to know that some of those things, those 50 things that we think are valuable to our customer, once we release them to the customer, if we actually measure, how often is my user actually going in and using feature X that I built? Out of 50 features, there's a high likelihood that several, if not many of those features will not be used by users. Or you might have a user that goes in there when it's first released to them, checks it out, oh, that looks cool, and then never goes into it again. Well, at that point, that feature is a waste. So why would we continue to develop more aspects of that feature if we're finding it's not valuable for the customer? We really shouldn't. Hey, kitty. So when I talk about agile software development, and I talk about agile project management, and I talk about lean, what I want to make sure teams do when they start doing this type of work is have the conversations with your management to help them understand, if we choose as an organization to do agile software development, we're going to need more interaction from you. We can't have you do a whole bunch of upfront planning and then give us a list of work and put it in a backlog, and then you just basically check in once every week or 2 weeks when a sprint is complete and go, yeah, you guys are making good progress. No, an agile software development team actually needs the business to be heavily involved all the time, because otherwise why do agile software development? Why be agile if you're not going to benefit from that agility? The whole purpose of it is watching the industry closely, releasing something to your customers at the end of every sprint. So you do 2 weeks of work, you put it in front of a customer, or put it in front of a limited audience, or put it in front of all your customers. Get it in front of some real users and get some feedback, and be prepared for the very high likelihood that that feedback is not going to be, hey, we love the feature as is, we don't want any changes to it, just keep going. More likely, the feedback is going to be, that's not really what we wanted, or, well, what if you did this? That's when agile software development becomes incredibly powerful, because then you can't, in lieu of it, you have to go back to them and go, oh, that sounds great. We'll get to that in 6 months because we've got a big list of other things that we have to get done first. No, when you do agile software development, when you do lean project management, lean software development rather, one of the things it buys you, and the whole purpose of it, is you can get that feedback from a customer, and then immediately that becomes your highest priority work. Let's fix what we just released to meet their needs before we go down the rabbit hole of building something new. If again, the way a company grows is through profit, and the way a company profits is not through, keep this in mind, software development companies don't profit from being the most efficient at building software. They profit from delivering the most valuable features to customers. I mean, think about it. If you, as efficiently as possible, build something that nobody wants, how is that better than taking longer maybe and having to iterate and change things a little bit, but delivering something that once it's complete, thousands or maybe millions of people want to use? I mean, this is the mindset that software development companies need to continually keep themselves in if they're going to be competitive in the marketplace. So what does this really mean to project management? Well, it means a couple things. I'll probably do a whole video on estimation and on tasks and things like that, because I think that's another thing that a lot of teams really struggle with, and a lot of management struggles with understanding. I'll give you the short answer though. I think less estimating is better. There's a variety of reasons, but the less time you can spend trying to think that you know how long something will take, the better chance you can actually spend your time finding out how long it really takes. So I'm also a big proponent of Kanban, but we'll get into that in a future video. Mostly in this video, I just wanted to expose you to some ideas that I have, again, after working on many projects that are, agile in one form or another, and really just get you to kind of think a little bit about, when I start a software development project and we're going to use agile methodologies, how can I have conversations with my project managers, my product managers, my VPs, my stakeholders, my customers, and get them to understand that culturally, as a company, we've chosen to commit ourselves to being responsive to you. And so we're going to use agile methods. What that means is we're no longer going to commit to you, hey, 2 years from now or a year from now, we're going to have this exact set of features and you can depend on it and get ready for it. No. Instead, the conversation becomes, we've decided to become extremely flexible and responsive. We're going to start releasing stuff to you every week or maybe every day. And we're going to have a formal process for you to come in and give us feedback, and we're going to be able to act on that feedback immediately. So in that kind of an environment, project management in the traditional sense of a Gantt chart and making sure people meet their estimates and everybody marches along and everything's on track for a delivery schedule, it's less important, because you're not managing the project so much as you're managing the product, the features, what's there, what the value is for the customer. So hopefully that was helpful. Again, I really am looking forward to sharing a lot of these ideas with you in these videos. This is just going to be a way, these first few videos, for me to level set with you a little bit about the methodology, the mindset, the approach that I tend to take when I work on software projects, we will definitely be getting down to the nuts and bolts of, okay, Jamie, you've told me about your philosophy on lean software development. What does that really mean now when I actually go to put a user story together? What needs to go in that user story? What's different about a user story on an Agile or lean project than one that's calling itself Agile and it's really waterfall? Because this is what many of the projects, unfortunately, I work on are they're really waterfall with the Agile trimmings, so to speak. So, stick with me. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll be having some more videos coming to you really soon. Thanks again for watching.